Good morning. I'm Noam Bramson, the mayor of New Rochelle. I'm joined by City Manager Chuck Strom and our Fire Chief Andy Sandor, both of whom will speak in just a moment. In one sense today, we are thankful. We are thankful that no lives were lost, thankful that there have been no injuries except for one very minor injury, and thankful for the exceptional work of our fire department, supported by our staff in police and Parks and Recreation and DPW, all of whom worked through horrendous conditions yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening to suppress this fire and make sure that it did not spread more broadly to the neighborhood. We're truly grateful for your actions and the actions of the entire team. In another sense, however, this is of course a very sad day for New Rochelle. We have lost one of our community's true historic and architectural treasures, a structure that is much beloved and has been beloved by generations of New Rochellians. I myself, on a personal level, remember being here as a child. I remember attending performances as an adult, as a city council member and as a mayor. I've worked to preserve the structure so that it could be adaptively reused. And so all of us feel this loss on a very personal level. We are a resilient community. We recognize that in the end this is a material loss, and thank goodness nothing more, and we will move on from this. But there's no question that this is a heavy blow and a sad day for New Rochelle. City Manager, let me turn it over to you to add a few additional words.
Thank you. Good morning.
They're on one of the other nights. They're on mine.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay,
sure.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So I just wanted to address a couple of things. The building itself was city-owned. We took ownership of it, I believe, in 1940. We have had several uses over the years of this building. Petting farm for children a long time ago. It was a theater 20 years ago. And we have been working along with the City Council and the Mayor to try to come up with a future use for it, and we're in the process of trying to develop a request for proposals to see if we could find a party that would be interested in reusing it. Contrary to what I've read, it was not dilapidated. The city sold a nearby property several years ago and spent a lot of money to secure the building, fix the roof, but we did have problems with people trying to break in. I would note that yesterday our Public Works and Parks and Recreations crew were here to board up the building in the morning prior to the fire, did not notice anything suspicious. So the building was in good shape structurally, and we were really looking forward to doing requests for proposals to find out a future user, but we just were not able to get there due to this unfortunate situation. I also would like to thank Chief Sandor, the police department, and everybody that responded yesterday. They got here and it was pretty much in full fire, and were able to get it out in a reasonable amount of time given difficult conditions and not have any of the adjacent homes really damaged at all. So I'm going to let the chief talk about the details of the fire and how he fought it, and then we'll open it up to questions for anybody. Chief?
Thank you. Mayor, City Manager, good morning everybody. Yeah, as the City Manager stated, the fire was what we call fully involved on arrival. Members coming from Station 1 right down Echo Avenue here stated that they could see the building actually fully involved. They immediately called it a working fire, what we call 1075. It's a structure that's known to everybody in town, again, as was stated, known to not be a residence or unoccupied, although members did try initially to make an interior attack. It was just unfeasible. Again, couple that with knowing that it's unoccupied building. They went directly to what we call exterior attack, just surrounded it with master streams. It was a very deep-seated fire. You have a large wood frame building like this, and the fire just is on so many levels. Eventually the roof did collapse, so at that point it just becomes a matter of getting enough water to seep down into the fire to get to, again, to the seat of the fire. As you can see, we have Engine 22 here on scene with our investigators. They're continuing to overhaul as needed. Whenever the investigators go around, they might find what we call hot spots that are still buried, and we have the engine on scene for that. The cause is yet undetermined. That's why we have the investigators here. And so on that, that's all we know about that. But again, to the mayor's point of, and the city manager as well, the men perform very admirably, especially in the conditions, the soft ground, when you have thousands of gallons of water and you have 40-ton apparatus. It's not a great combination, and as you can see by the large tire tracks up by the driveway, rigs tend to run into a mess, and the members were able to overcome that and position the rigs very well. And as we stated, there were embers being blown. There was an intense wind coming from the east last night, and it was blowing that way towards the apartment buildings, and guys did a great job at keeping it contained to this area. Thank you.
So we'll open it to questions.
Yep.
Now.
Is the cause suspicious at all, just because of the volume of fire, or is it?
Say again?
Is this suspicious in any way, and is the volume of fire?
No idea. Yeah, no idea.
And the city manager, I think, mentioned that it was being boarded up yesterday. I mean, is there something in the materials that were being used, or maybe a discarded cigarette, or something that could have contributed?
No. It was. I don't want to speak for the investigation, but simply wood and nails was used to board it up a couple of windows. So I'm not an expert. They'll investigate everything, but I would be highly unlikely that that had anything to do with it. And that was much earlier in the day that was actually occurring from when the fire was called in at 4:30. So I don't think that's it, but we need to let the investigators do their work. We have two of our own folks and somebody from Westchester County that will help us. We have an arson dog here that is that what they call them, an arson dog?
Yes,
a
sir.
dog that's anyway to help us investigate, and we expect to take a day or two to really know what the cause of this was.
Has there been a problem here with young people or homeless people accessing the building over the years?
Not a significant one that I've been aware of. I know we've had a few times that we've had to secure the building. As you can tell, this is a vacant building in a somewhat remote location, so it is susceptible to that, but it has not been a large problem that's been brought to my attention over the years, and on occasion we've had to secure it, but not to the extent that I would call it a chronic problem.
Was there a fire alarm in the building?
I don't believe there was.
Unknown. No. There was no electricity, no gas in the building.
When the city accepted registration on the National Register of Historic Places, was there any requirement to sprinkle the building or in any way make it secure from something like this?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Was there any recent incident that prompted the city to board up the property yesterday of all days?
There's just a report that there were some openings that needed to be secured. I think it's an unfortunate coincidence, but it was not due to anything. There was nobody noticed inside the building. It was just that it was called in that we had a need to secure a couple of locations.
Are the police looking at social media postings as part of the investigation?
The police look at everything, and I'm sure they are looking at the social media. In fact, I have had a conversation with the police commissioner this morning. He advised me that they are looking at all of that stuff, but again, they'll assist the fire department and the county in any way they can in determining, one, the cause, and then if there's any criminal thing that the police would take over from there.
Who called the fire in?
We were reported that actually somebody from the apartment buildings right here on Davenport first smelled it, and actually we're unsure if it was a fire in their own building in 30 Davenport, and that's who called it in originally.
What time was that reported?
About 4:25, 4:30.
And I don't want this to sound in any way casting aspersions on anyone, because there's obviously no one on it, but as a longtime city manager, 16 years, and as a longtime mayor, is there a sense of regret that more wasn't done over the time that you've been in office to secure this, given how the significant place it feels it plays in the hearts of people in New Rochelle? And does it add any urgency to deal with the armory or to deal with the remaining buildings at Ward Acres?
It's a fair question, but I would respectfully resist the premise. We focused quite intently on Wildcliff. As the city manager noted, some years ago we sold the adjoining property, used the proceeds of that sale in order to reconstruct the roof to secure the building, with the notion that the interior would be fitted out upon determination of a reuse. We have worked closely with community groups that advocated for the creation of performance space in one instance, in another instance for the creation of a school. Both of those uses proved to be either operationally or financially non-viable. And as was indicated, we were on the cusp of issuing an RFP, which would probably have linked Wildcliff to the park as a whole. So this was a focus of our attention. We hadn't been successful as of yet in identifying a viable reuse, but it wasn't for lack of effort, and we had secured the structure physically. With respect to the other two sites that you mentioned, the Armory, we are working with the developers for Pratt Landing. We've also secured funding from New York State, which we expect to utilize to secure that building. And we are anticipating issuing a request for expressions of interest for the Ward Acres barn, which is substantially more deteriorated than the Armory itself. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, City Manager.
You covered most, but I just do want to add that I want to stress that this building was not in disrepair. We spent a significant amount of money to, in fact, fix the roof, do something with the windows, and secure it. And it was in a condition on the inside where it was to the studs, so that whatever the use was determined to be could come in and build it to spec like that. So. I understand that the cities, not just New Rochelle, are not generally great property managers, and other buildings might have other problems, but I resist the analogy that this building was in disrepair. It was not. The only problems we had, as I said, were keeping it secure, and our police and parks and public works folks did a good job whenever there was a problem coming in and securing it.
And as you negotiate with developers for the many millions of dollars being spent here, do you ever try to leverage approvals, or do you ever try to use your leverage to raise money to fix up places like Wildcliff?
Sure. Well, our downtown development framework has a number of components which spin off revenue for public purposes. One is something called a fair share mitigation fund that's charged on a per square foot basis to cover infrastructure and capital needs. In addition, there is a height bonus provision which enables developers to make a payment to the city in exchange for additional height in their projects. However, the focus of the use of those dollars is within the downtown overlay zone itself, rather than sites of this kind which are far outside of the downtown.
I would add, not quite a developer, but I want to go back to the fact that we sold an adjacent property that was city-owned to somebody who developed it, and that money was all used for the securing of this facility. So again, in this particular case, the city did leverage the money that we got from a private land sale adjacent to fix up. I'm sorry. Can you get them to shut the truck?
Tony, shut the rig.
I'm sorry, I would repeat that in this particular case, I'll go back to the point that we did sell the adjacent piece of property, which was actually part of this. It was subdivided to a person who built a residence on it, and all of the money that we got, over $1 million for that property, was used to secure this building. So in fact, what you suggested was done here by the city for this particular site. Our issue has been finding a viable user that could be self-sustaining and not have to have the city pour a lot of budget money into the operation of the facility.
Anything further? Okay, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.